It's strange, the way silence falls on a crowded room. The particular kind that slides in when you realize that no one believes in you. That night, standing on the narrow, squeaky stage at the back of a Sandton conference room, I felt it settle heavy and humid around my shoulders. They'd given me 5 minutes to pitch my idea, and now, 3 minutes in, I was bleeding out in front of tastefully dressed investors and a few stray journalists. Someone coughed, muffled, and I flinched. I'd rehearsed my pitch over and over, whispering it into the late-night hush of my one-bedroom flat in Yeovil until every word felt steady. But here, under sharp fluorescent lighting, my hands sweated as they clutched a battered stack of presentation notes, the top page curling with nerves. They'd asked what made my dream different from all the other fusion bistros popping up in every trendy mall from Rosebank to Morningside. I started to explain how griot, chakalaka, and dumplings from my grandmother's stories could form the backbone of a fine dining menu. How food could tell the story of a continent and a family. Later, I'd remember the faces as if they were characters sketched in sunlight. The woman in a red scarf who rolled her eyes. The man with rimless glasses who kept checking his phone. The old white guy who watched me the way a principal watches a child fumble a recitation. "No one wants Township food with gold leaf," someone said when I wrapped up. He sounded bored, impatient. I tried to hold my ground, voice steady. It's not about gold leaf. It's about respect, storytelling. Giving food that's always been called peasant its place at the table. You can't gentrify pop and expect people to pay 300 rand for it," another interrupted. Sung polite laughter, uncertain. I felt the tips of my ears burning. I searched the crowd for sympathy, but people looked away. It was worse than anger, worse than outright hostility. It was dismissal, the kind of rejection that clings to you with an oily aftertaste. The event coordinator shepherded me off the stage with a plastic smile. I left my notes behind. Later, I thought about going back for them, but couldn't bear to face that empty hall. I pressed my palm to the cold tile of the corridor, forcing myself to breathe. No one in that room would remember me after tonight. I took the late Reavaya bus home, forehead pressed to the dusty window as the city lights sped past. My phone stayed silent, no calls from investors. Instead, 3 missed calls from my mother, 2 texts from my oldest sister, Dineo. When I opened the first voice note, my mother's voice, thin, insistent, crackled from the tiny speaker. "Lerato, please, come see about your grandmother tomorrow. And stop with this business of cooking on TV. Why can't you be like your cousin Thabo? He's an engineer now, you know." Dragging myself up the dark stairwell to my flat, the grief of that moment opened, sharp and pungent like a burst of vinegar. I unlocked my door, dropped my bag, and stood in the stillness. Every surface in the kitchenette glinted with reminders. Scratched mixing bowls, chipped wooden spoons, the sticky fragrance of onion and ginger rising from the garbage bin. I felt utterly foolish. The next week, I went home to Soweto for Sunday lunch with my family. The house was already hot, and the house smelled of fennel, coriander, and bay. Soaked inside, everyone was there. Dineo, shrewd and razor-tongued. Nthabi sang, my usual defender. Uncle Sebe, always too loud. Little cousins hanging back, eyes wide. Grandma was settled in her threadbare armchair, wrapped in a faded blanket against the early autumn chill. "You didn't get the investment, ne?" Dineo asked almost as soon as I put down my bag. Her tone was casual, but I caught the edge. The table fell silent. Mama looked up from slicing tomatoes for the salad. "Ah, lirato. Maybe it's time to get a real job. The salon in Diekloof is hiring." I bit back words that rose in my throat. Grief, clarity, sometimes they feel like the same thing. I looked at them all, these people who'd raised me, and felt how small I must seem. Uncle Sebe guffawed. "You want to make a maguinha fancy enough for the Sandton folks? You should have learned plumbing instead. Always steady work. Laughter, not mean but not warm either. I set the table in silence. We ate pap and lamb stew while everyone swapped stories about Dineo's promotion and Tumi's new car. My food vanished with the rest, not a word said about the plate I'd made. I smiled when I had to, but inside I drifted, wondering if maybe I really was delusional. The world didn't need a restaurant owned by me, a food nobody craved, a chef nobody believed in. Later, Grandma beckoned to me as I washed up. She fixed her papery hand over mine. Her eyes were still sharp, though everything else about her had faded. "My girl," she said quietly, "seedlings need time before they fruit. Don't let your garden die because it rains for too long." She squeezed my fingers, then drifted to sleep in her chair. I let her words plant themselves somewhere in me, not sure whether that hope was nurturing or toxic. Months passed. I took jobs wherever I could, some weeks in greasy kitchens, others as a private chef to people who called me girl and asked for bland food with no spice. Nothing tasted like home. Each paycheck went into a battered biscuit tin in my flat. Every so often, I'd crack the lid, count the notes, and recalibrate my dream. The bistro would be smaller, the menu simpler. Maybe it could just be a food stall, a pop-up at Neighbor Goods Market. I would settle for anything. I lost friends along the way. Sifiso drifted off when I couldn't afford dinner or drinks. Malebo got tired of me texting job leads at midnight. Even Fabisang started coming around less. One by one, people peeled away until my phone was just a graveyard of promises. "Let's catch up. You're going to make it, don't worry." But hope alone doesn't pay for beef shin or butter. Some nights, the doubt grew so loud, I nearly packed it in. I thought of the Sandton pitch, how those investors had looked at me, this township girl with delusions of grandeur. The memories soured each hopeful day into something brittle and faint. Still, I kept cooking. I woke up at 6, rolled balls of vet coke dough, marinated oxtail, blitzed up achar and mango. The kitchen stayed my only reminder that I was alive within my own skin. Without realizing it, the city began to change shape. 3 months after my disastrous pitch, I landed a stall at the new artisan food market by Nabanang Precinct. The rent was more than I could afford, but I paid the deposit anyway, hands shaking. My first day, I stood behind a folding table with chipped enamelware, a menu handwritten on brown paper. Home. Stories told in 6 dishes. I made what I knew: slow-roasted lamb, butter bean sambal, fried chicken dusted with amahiwu spice. Not the prettiest, not the cheapest, just true. People came. At first, by accident, a couple of German tourists, a student from UJ. Then someone posted a photo to Instagram. A local food blog mentioned me, new queen of soul food Mabanang. Each Saturday swelled a little bigger. I went from praying to break even to being sold out by lunchtime. The market manager, Marissa, made space for me every weekend. "Best chow in Joburg," she'd say, tucking an extra tablecloth into my box. A local photographer came by and did a story. Suddenly, my stall had a line 20 people deep. I stayed humbled, head down, grateful for every rand. But success is never a straight line. I learned this every day when the gas burner sputtered out mid-service, or when a customer sneered at the price of Mogodu, or when relatives texted, "So you still playing with food then?" That ache never left. Yet each month, the biscuit tin grew heavier, then fuller. I found investors, this time through the people who ate at my stall. The owner of a music studio, a graphic designer who swapped me branding work for free meals. Small, cautious investments, each one more dignifying than that first Sandton bloodbath. 2 years from that night, I signed the lease on a tiny shopfront near Gandhi Square. 6 tables in a row. I painted the walls ochre and amber, framed a photo of my grandmother, young and fierce, on the back wall. I called it Mabala Roots, because that's what it was, to remember where you'd come from and to let yourself grow, even when it hurt. The night we opened, I didn't invite family, not out of pride, just a quiet desire to keep my center from collapsing. The first diners were strangers, and the first review was good. Then the next, and the next. 3 months after opening, a critic from the Sunday Times called my loboti the most complex, heartfelt dish in Johannesburg. And one hot Thursday, I got a call. The Zikonlo Culinary Institute wanted me to do a guest lunch, then a talk for their students. They would pay good money. Fame, in its quiet, sneaky way, had found me. I cooked without thinking, finding grace in the rhythm of saucepots, the quiet joy in prepping spinach with my new team, the steady arms of people believing in my hands. When I go home now, it feels both right and raw. I see the new gate Uncle Sebe finally put up with Dabo's engineering bonus. The way Dino's voice is sharp as ever but rings with a different note when she tells my nephews to taste the achar because their aunt makes it the fancy way. Sunday lunch is still the anchor. I bring food from the restaurant sometimes, bales of spiced lamb, pots of chakalaka, a loaf of mealie bread with cracked black pepper. No one makes a fuss. Then, one afternoon in spring, everything shifts. I get a message from Mrs. Molefe, a woman from my childhood church. Hello, Lorado. The Women's Association is doing a fundraiser at the community hall. We want to invite you for the keynote. We see your face in Drum magazine. You must come. It would be the first time many had seen me in years. I say yes. I am nervous. Days out. I cannot sleep the night before. I prep, more afraid than excited. I don't want to be a portrait in someone else's narrative.